Hi, this is Rhonda Johnson, rc.johnson@hughes.net. It was 1986 and I was done. I had had enough. I had lived 7 years with humiliation, isolation, physical and mental abuse, and I told my ex-husband, I no longer give you permission to treat me this way. I no longer give you permission to rule my life this way. I cleared the fog from my head and said, I am done. I took an armful of clothes, threw them in my car, this old junker car. It still owed $400 on it. It was on its last legs. I no longer had a job. I had gone to work a few days earlier, put my key in the door to the bank that I worked at, and the key didn't work. The locks had been changed. The feds came in and closed the bank down overnight. I drove about 45 miles into the next town, the bigger town in our area, and I had no place to go. I had no money. I had nothing, and I slept in my car that night. And for the first time in my life, I was truly, truly scared. It was cold. I locked all the doors. I didn't sleep very well that night, and I was totally lost with what I was going to do next. Because for 7 years I had been isolated from all of our friends, I had to kind of rekindle some old friendships, and a friend did offer to let me stay a couple of weeks at their place until I could get back on my feet. I filed for unemployment, made $124 a week. My sister offered to help me out, but I didn't realize her offer of help meant, because she was on government assistance, that she was going to teach me all the ropes on how to get on government assistance. She sent me down to this office, and I spent all day long filling out application after application after application, standing in line after line after line. By the end of the day, I was exhausted, and I also made $1 a month too much for any kind of help. I started looking for a job. I started looking for an apartment. Fortunately, due to the very, very bad economy that we were in, then apartments were plentiful. I found one that was in the security building that was really important to me, and it was $200 for a deposit. All utilities were included. It was on the 4th floor of this building. You had a choice. You could either get, as an incentive to move in, a free TV, a free microwave, or 1 month's rent free. Obviously, I took the 1 month's rent free. I had no idea where next month's rent was going to come from. I had no furniture. The manager of the apartment building found 2 folding chairs and an air mattress, and that was it. I had no food, no dishes, nothing to cook with, even if I had food to cook, but I was back on my own. I finally got a job and started back to work in the mortgage business, but I needed to get some things together for my 2 kids. We were in a bitter custody battle, and I needed to provide for them so that I wouldn't lose. I started putting these things together, got the kids a bed, got them clothes, got them blankets, got everything taken care of for the kids. Well, they were only 3 and 5, and they were pretty rambunctious. Since I was on the 4th floor, the lady that lived in the apartment right below me on the 3rd floor, her name was Charlie, and she would call up and fuss because the kids were being too noisy or running across the floor, so I'd try to settle them down. We'd take off to a park. Whenever I heard the 3 raps on her ceiling with the end of the broomstick, my floor, I knew the kids were being too noisy. So I kept telling them, don't jump on Charlie's heads. And they would look up at me and say, okay, Mommy, we promise, we won't. Christmas came around way too fast that year, and a friend of mine went and cut 2 scrawny little spruce trees from somewhere that probably wasn't legal, brought them to me, and I brought one down to Charlie. I had created this little white sign, and it said on it, sorry Charlie, like from the old Star-Kissed Tuna commercials. And every time she would wrap her broom on my ceiling or her ceiling on my floor, then I'd stick that little sign out the window on a string, hang it down to her window, and stomp a little bit, and she would see it and tug on it, and I'd pull it back up. So I always had a little way of trying to apologize to her for the kids being too noisy. So the next apology was to bring her the scrawny little Christmas tree. I had no decorations. Didn't have hardly any money, and I went to the dollar store and I bought up just these cheap little decorations so the kids could have at least a Christmas tree. One of the things they had was those boxes of that tin, kind of shredded tin foil. They called them icicles, and they were like 10 cents a box. So I bought like 5 boxes of those. This tree was so scrawny that I'd have to hang all this stuff around it just to make it look like it was still the shape of a tree. I have a picture of the 2 boys, and I was doling it out to them in little pinches so that it would take a long time to decorate the tree and keep them quiet. And this picture is both of them looking up in the sky, reaching their arms up, just ready to grab at those little tinfoil icicles, and they just looked so cute and so innocent. They had no clue how tough this was. Only had a few presents under the tree. Of course, my family helped out a little bit, and of course got the kids some presents too. Christmas morning, we get up and there's a knock on the door. I open up the door, there's nobody there. But there's this big red bag outside my door, and there's a sign on it that says, "Hey kids, Santa must have dropped this off on the wrong floor. I think it's meant for you, Charlie." We open up the bag and there are all these books and toys and gifts and games. And she had been thrift store shopping for a whole month, finding all these little presents for these kids. Cleaned them all up, wrapped them all up, and they had a heyday with opening up this whole bag full of presents. In the bottom of that bag was a complete turkey dinner. I had bought deli turkey, some cheese, and some bread, and that was going to be our Christmas turkey dinner, but she had put everything in a little box and left a sign on it for me that says, "Yes, I will accept your invitation to dinner." Well, I had to borrow most of her dishes to cook the dinner with, but she didn't cook at all, so she came up and had Christmas dinner with us. I didn't realize that Charlie had been very, very sick for a couple of months, and that the treatments that she was on was very intense for her, and the kids running around on that floor just jolted her out of this medication that she was on, and really bothered her. So I try to remember this kindness that this lady that I had thought was cranky and mean showed to us during a time that was so critical that we learned to make new friends. And I try really hard to pass that on whenever I can, still to this day.